Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the next in the endless series of Dave's Faves. And today, I want to talk about the Liszt Sonata in B minor, one of the most iconic, legendary, romantic piano pieces in the history of humanity. It's just one of those things that every pianist worth his salt who pretends to play 19th century piano repertoire has to, take a crack at. And as a result of that, there are lots and lots of really good performances of it. And they come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. The Liszt Sonata, as some of you may know, is just this behemoth. It's a single movement, 30-minute long monstrosity, basically. And Liszt, put an enormous amount of sweat and tears and work into it. He himself actually couldn't play it. It was really too difficult for him to do, which is kind of fascinating. And it really is. It's just a virtuoso showpiece on the one hand, but it is also a true sonata with a magnificently developmental aspect to it, which, pianists have to learn how to realize. It's not an easy piece technically or intellectually. It really isn't. There are, it comes in sections. And like most of Liszt's sort of larger forms, those sections are based on, metamorphic transformations of a few basic ideas. And, those ideas go through all kinds of different sort of shapes and sizes in what is basically, generally speaking, a four-movement layout, all condensed into one gigantic movement. And so pacing is critical. And motivic clarity is critical. And with all of that, the thing is just technically absolutely appalling. And so great artists can't resist the challenge. And there have been, as I said, so many wonderful performances of it. Really, really, we're lucky. We're spoiled for choice when it comes to the Liszt Sonata. And I think, you want to have a performance that takes the music seriously, that takes it seriously in an intellectual sense, that really tries to convince us that there are very serious, even profound things being said. Liszt, usually was very anxious to convince us of the profundity of his thought, usually by telling us, like, here's the profound part, or play it profoundly. He wrote very, very detailed scores, and he told us exactly what the music's supposed to express and all of that stuff, and sometimes it did, and sometimes it didn't. But this is just called Sonata in B minor, and he's not going to say, oh, well, this is the sublime part, as he would in some of his symphonic poems. So it's up to the artist to project the necessary sublimity and profundity through their fingers and their attack on the keyboard. And the artist, for me, who does that, I just find endlessly gratifying, is Claudio Arrau. Yes. Because Claudio Arrau's pedigree is directly in the line of Liszt. His teacher, I think it was Martin Krauss or someone like that, was a pupil of Liszt. But even beyond, that doesn't really mean anything. If the guy's an idiot and doesn't know what he's doing, it's hopeless. Arrau was one of those pianists who did take the music extremely seriously. Sometimes people would say he probably took it too seriously, but he combined that seriousness of approach with an absolutely exquisite piano tone. Jed Disler, our piano guy, would say his tone was deep in the keys, was the phrase Jed likes to use. It just has this velvety, gorgeous sonority. But in addition to the velvety, gorgeous sonority, which makes the lyrical passages sing, they just sing so beautifully. And he had this wonderful sense of rubato and a completely idiomatic sense of romantic, expressive, his romantic, expressive, shall we say, arsenal. It's perfect for this music. And in addition to that, he had the chops for it. He had the virtuosity, but the virtuosity is never self-serving in Arrau's performances. It always serves the immediate expressive purpose. And he shapes this piece in such a persuasive way. You know, I mean, the performance lasts, let me see, it's 32 minutes long. Not one of the quicker ones, but it's about average. It's not slow. It's definitely not on the slow side. There are much slower ones, and there are quicker ones, and there are more volcanic ones. I mean, there's like Martha Argerich, who's legendary in this work, and there are all kinds of other people. I mean, there's Richter, and you name it, the famous people. They've all done it. They've all done it. But I am talking about musical satisfaction. You want, when this 32 minutes is over, to feel like you could do it all over again. And this is a performance that does that for me. I think Arrau was a genius at the keyboard. I really do. Not everybody likes everything he did, and he could be, I think, serious to the point of stodginess, especially later when his technique started to go. But essentially and basically, when he was on, there was absolutely nobody who could match him in this romantic stuff. And he really did take his Liszt seriously enough to convince us that there was much more than just a showman or, shallow virtuosity or any of those things. He made it all meaningful somehow. It's one of those indefinable quantities. I mean, what did it mean? I don't know, but it means something. And that's the point. You feel the intent, which manifests itself in expressive immediacy, feeling that something important is being communicated to you. And, for those of you who don't like Liszt, and I know I hadn't classical music's 10 dirtiest secrets. One of them is that Liszt is trash. Well, that's not always a bad thing, first of all. As any of you who know me know that when I say something is trash, that's usually a compliment. But beyond that, Liszt wasn't trash. Of course not. He was a genius, and he was a very, very great composer of a very interesting type, because he was the written down embodiment of someone who was perpetually improvising. And so he would never do the same thing twice. And there are 5,000 versions of everything. And it's really a project sort of wrapping your brain around who he was and what he did. And this is one of those performances that I think will really help you to do that. It really helps you to understand what Liszt was up to in the best possible way. And it's gorgeously recorded. It's on Philips, now Decca. This is Philips, but you can find it on Decca. I mean, Claudio Arrau was just a master at this sort of thing. These big, difficult, intellectually demanding romantic works. So, for my money, the Liszt B Minor Sonata, the one I reach for when I'm grasping for Liszt B Minor Sonatas, is Claudio Arrau. Stunning. On Decca. Absolutely stunning. So keep on listening, folks. Thanks for joining me. Take care.